Go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Gordon, and I am the chair of the Emergency Response Team for the Glen Ellen Area Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I would like to thank you all for joining us this evening for this important virtual seminar on safety and crime prevention and cybersecurity. In today's increasingly digital world, understanding how to protect ourselves, our families, and our communities from both physical and cyber threats is more critical than ever. We've gathered here this evening to explore practical strategies, share insights, and empower one another to stay vigilant and informed. Whether it's safeguarding our homes, avoiding online scams, or securing our digital lives, the information we discuss tonight will equip you with the tools to face these challenges confidently. We're honored to have two outstanding speakers with us this evening. First, we're thrilled to welcome Officer Corinne Beeman of the 22nd District of the Chicago Police Department, who will discuss safety and crime prevention strategies to help keep ourselves and our communities secure. Additionally, we are also excited to have Kelly Lewis. She is the Vice President at Zurich North America and a leader in operational risk and cybersecurity, who will provide valuable insights on navigating the digital landscape safely. Let's take the opportunity tonight to learn, ask questions, and work together towards a safer and more secure future. We will start our program this evening with a word from our president. It is my privilege to welcome the president of the Glen Ellen Area Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Nikki Lang.
Thank you, Christina. And good evening, everyone. And as stated, my name is Nikki Lang, and I serve as the president of the Glen Ellen Area Alumni Chapter, where we actually recently celebrated 48 years to the west suburbs of Chicagoland. I bring you greetings on behalf of our membership that dwells between Oak Park and Aurora. I can actually imagine that 48 years ago, when our charter members and our members actually thought about security and risk and where that would dwell, probably in a million years, they didn't think that cyber would be a discussion that we would be having. So I really think, though, wherever you have opportunity, you have risk. And so with that, I especially want to thank the emergency response team under the leadership of Christina Gordon and Elizabeth Oliver for bringing us together for a conversation that is virtually nonetheless, and that we have the opportunity to really talk about protecting ourselves, our families, and our assets. So Christina, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. We will have a question and answer period after each speaker. So feel free to type your questions in the chat and I will read them to the speakers and they will provide answers accordingly. To make this process more easier, I'm asking that the chat solely be for speaker questions. Also, can everyone please keep their microphones on mute to eliminate background noise? Thank you again for being here and let's go ahead and get started. First, let's welcome Officer Corinne Beeman, a seasoned law enforcement professional with over 22 years of service as a Chicago police officer. Currently, Officer Beeman is the community liaison in the 22nd District Community Policing Office. Officer Beeman is renowned for her expertise in conflict resolution and crisis management. With an MBA in marketing management, she has developed impactful community outreach strategies and innovative crime prevention materials that have set citywide standards. Officer Beeman also played a pivotal role in implementing the Chicago Police Department's Ring Neighbors pilot program, leveraging technology to enhance public safety. Her unwavering dedication to bridging the gap between law enforcement and the community has cemented her reputation as not only a leader, an innovator, and also an advocate for collaboration and public safety. Please join me in welcoming Officer Corinne Beeman. Officer Beamon, you're muted. No.
There we go. Is it there?
Yes, we can
Sorry
hear you
about
now.
that, folks. Thank you, Miss Christine. I appreciate the warm welcome. And President Nikki Lane, I appreciate you for having me here. You girls invited me the second year in a row. I appreciate that. And that speaks loads and it makes me excited. So thank you so much. Okay. Everyone, again, I'm Officer Beeman. We'll say Korean for the meeting because I'm just actually regular, but I'm at work, so forgive me. I've been on the police department for 25 years. It is my absolute pleasure to do this for you, and you can call on me anytime. We can get started on the first slide. Okay. The carjackings. I do not know how it is where you are located. In Chicago and surrounding suburbs, we've had some um, pretty bad issues with the carjackings. Okay. I don't want to go through every single word on the slide, but I'll just speak to you like this, ladies. Be careful. Okay. I have a weapon and I'm careful everywhere I go. I try not to be too paranoid, but just be vigilant and just watching your surroundings. Okay. I know it's the winter month. We love to warm up our vehicles before we go outside. I love to give a tip and remind folks that when you do your remote start, give it time to warm up. Let your car turn off. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time. You don't want to start your car up and immediately go outside. Okay. Unfortunately, some folks will take advantage of that. They will be awaiting you to come out of your door and enter your vehicle because they know you're coming soon. Okay. So if you can make it a habit, start your vehicle 15, 20 minutes before you go out. It's already warm. When you go to your vehicle, you start it up again and it'll still be warm for you. I promise you, I do it every day. All right. So please just don't start that car up and go out there and assume that no one is watching you. Always assume that someone's watching you. Okay. Be careful where you drive, where you park. Make sure it's in well lit areas. Be careful at the gas stations, ATMs. Um, Again, I am the police. I have experience as the police. I carry a weapon. I do not, under any circumstance, go to the ATM when it's dark out for no reason at all. If whatever's needed that evening, it won't happen until the morning. Okay. Please just think twice. Don't put yourself in harm's way for whatever you need to go to the ATM for late in the evenings. Okay. Be careful with highway ramps when you're getting on and off. Sometimes you have folks pretending like they have a flat. Sometimes they actually have a flat. Pick up your phone, call 911, let them know you see someone waiting on the road. Please don't pull over and try to give help. I know it may sound insensitive, but you just don't know in this day and age what their intentions are. Okay, so again, pick up the phone, dial 911. That's better than you pulling over trying to solve a problem for someone else. Okay, just a different day. Um, we have scenarios that take place in Chicago. It's a bump and run. That's when a vehicle goes behind you. They tap your bumper. You get out. You think you're about to exchange information, and they take your vehicle, your cell phone, your purse, etc. Please be careful in the event that you are in a car accident. Again, I do not want to make you paranoid. If you have a car accident and you're in a safe area, it's well lit, you have traffic going by all means, you pull over, exchange information, or wait on the police to come. If you feel a bit uncomfortable, I mean a tiny bit uncomfortable, stay in your vehicle, leave the doors locked, leave the windows up, call 911, okay? And then you get out the big vehicle when the police arrive. Okay, it's nothing wrong with folks being patient and waiting. If they're impatient, you just get their license plate information when they drive off, and you will feel better later on when you're at home and you're comfortable and you're safe. Okay. Um, Flashing lights. folks like to, say, oh, your lights are off. They'll give you a little flash. Unfortunately, it's a little different now. Sometimes the flashing lights could just mean they have someone else working with them. Okay. They're trying to get your attention, trying to get you to stop or stall. And then unfortunately, they try to put you in a position of a victim. Okay. Just be careful, pay attention. I don't mean to scare you saying every accident is someone trying to take your vehicle or take your belongings, but just know that it's happening every day. And if you're aware, then you're 100% ahead. Okay. Um, Again, well lit areas, be aware of your surroundings, trust your instincts, keep your cell phones in your pocket. Okay. Um, a lot of folks like they have concealed carry. Please, folks, it's a vehicle, it's a purse, it's some cash. Give them whatever you have. The most important thing is your life and the folks that's waiting on you to come home. Okay. So please let them have it. Don't try to fight. Don't try to pull weapons. Don't, just let them have it and go away safely. Okay. We can go to the next slide and hopefully you'll have some questions for me a little later. This is protect your vehicle slide. Okay. We have had, unfortunately, a lot of vehicle thefts in Chicago and surrounding suburbs. We always ask, of course, never leave your keys in a vehicle, not even for a minute. We love to say, oh, I was just gone for a minute. I just stepped out for a minute. That 60 seconds is the only thing necessary for them to get whatever they want belongs to you, that they want to belong to them. Okay. So please, please do not leave the keys in ignition. Always lock your doors, park in secure garage and gated areas when possible, and again, well lit areas. One thing I did not mention in the last slide, there's a program called Smart 911. It's almost nationwide now, okay? I'm pretty sure you guys have it where you live. Please enroll in Smart 911. Do a little Googling research. It's free of charge. It's never been hacked. They don't ask for any private information, such as your social security number, or any credit card information. You basically go to Smart 911, you create a safety profile. When you dial 911, the operator already knows important information about you. They know as little information or as much information as you want them to have. Okay. Again, it's called Smart 911. It's almost nationwide. Even when you go out of town, if you use Smart 911, which is connected to your phone, they'll actually know it's you. Okay. It's a very wise decision to log in. One for carjackings and vehicle thefts, you can actually put your vehicle information in the Smart 911 profile. Okay. Sometimes we get a little scared. We're hesitant. We can't remember our license plate because we are becoming a victim of a crime. You don't remember things like that um, when your blood is rushing and you're just scared. Okay. So please put that information in your Smart 911 profile. When you dial 911 and they say, okay, what's your license plate number? It will already pop up on your screen. They won't have to ask you. All right. Also, for individuals that have anyone with any crises in their home, any medication that they're taking. You can put whether you have 2 dogs or 3 dogs, and you can put what rooms everyone is in the event you have a fire in your home. Um, Again, if someone is taking medication and EMS arrives, they'll actually know what medicine they have so they don't have an allergic reaction to some type of penicillin or medicine that the medical folks use when they arrive. So it's plenty of information you can add or not add, completely up to you. But please do a little Googling, do some research. Smart 911 is the way to go for our family and friends, okay? Invest in anti theft devices, pedal locks, hidden kill switches, audible alarms, anything you can think of, okay, just to for your car to be identified is very important, okay? Um, the well, here in Chicago, okay, and I want to say it's the same where you are. You want to, of course, call the police immediately if your vehicle was stolen or you are a victim of a carjacking. Be ready to provide your vehicle information, make, model, year, VIN number. And again, if you have a Smart 911 profile, You won't need to add that information. It will already be in the system. Okay. And make sure you contact your insurance company afterwards, because again, your life is what's important. Everything else is insured, or you can get it again later. Okay. Please keep that in mind. And we can go to the next slide. So I just attached this. This is the Cook County Sheriff's Office Stolen Vehicle Recovery Program. Just for the record, though you live in the suburbs, these cars are on the road day in, day out. Okay. They'll steal a car in Chicago, they'll take it to Glen Ellen, they'll steal a car in Glen Ellen, and they'll take it to Chicago. Okay. It happens all the time. What you can do with the Cook County Sheriff's Office, if you complete the paperwork, every vehicle now actually can be found. Okay, whether you pay for Siri or any kind of program for your vehicle in case your vehicle is stolen, whether you pay for it or not, the county has access to it. Okay, you complete the application. They'll send you back a sticker to put on your vehicle to let people know, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't mess with this car because it's actually in the Cook County system. So they'll fine you once you get in it and drive off. Okay. It's mainly used for a deterrent. All right. But in any event, they do not see the sticker on your vehicle. If they steal your vehicle, the Cook County Sheriff has a partnership with the owners of your vehicle, with the model makers of your vehicle, and they will actually tell you exactly where that vehicle is. Okay. So please, again, we're talking about property. Let them have it. Let the police or law enforcement find them later. Okay. Next slide. Robbery prevention tips, same as said earlier. Just trust your instincts. Be careful. Show confidence when you're walking up and down the street. Ladies, I say this to us in particular at other meetings I have in the community. We love to carry our purses in the grocery store. We unfortunately love to put them in the baskets while we're shopping. Okay. Please, that's a no no. Okay. You don't want anyone grabbing your property while you turn your back, or taking it and running out the door while you're trying to buy cereal. Okay. Same thing when we pull up in front of our homes. We love to say, I can make this in one trip. So we put 15 bags on one arm and 4 bags on the other. And we actually walk in our homes like that. Ladies, please take the time, make the extra steps. You always want to have your hands free in the event someone approaches you. Okay. So please don't try to pile all your bags on your arms and make one trip in the home. If you can, call a neighbor or someone in your home, let them come out, let them watch you, especially if it's dark out, and make your hands available. Okay. Put your phones up and know what's going on around you. Just a quick story. We had a robbery here at a CVS. Okay. The individual walked in CVS while it was being robbed. They were so preoccupied with their telephone that they had no idea they were walking into the robbery. Okay. Ladies, it happens. Please put the cell phones down. Tell folks you'll call them back later. Know what you're walking into. Don't just assume that everything is fine, because sometimes it is not. Okay. Please. Um, Again, well-lit areas, safety is our top priority for you. Okay. Give people what they ask for. Go home safely. All right. We can go to the next slide. We have a few areas in Chicago where vacant property is an issue, okay, for multiple reasons. Uh, Back, 10, 15 years ago, it was a problem because women were being raped, kids were uh, being snatched. Now it's a bit different. We still have those problems, but we have the individuals that are, doing drugs in these homes. We have individuals who are taking over the homes and living in the homes and borrowing electricity from the neighbors. Okay. It's a different day. It's very hard to get these individuals out of the home once they get in it. Okay. So if you have any vacant properties near your home, I beg you, number one, watch it. Number two, talk to your local law enforcement, see if they know the owner of this property. You want to make sure you get that property secured. All right. Um, People are angry when they realize that squatters have more rights than anyone. So if someone goes in that vacant property and they lock the doors and put on their own locks and lock the windows, it's their home and it can sometimes take years to get them out of it, though they have not paid a mortgage, though they are trespassing. Okay. So please, if you have any property in your community that needs to be secured, call 911 immediately. Let them know, like, hey, I have a back door open, I have a window open. I haven't seen the neighbors go in and out in 6 months. Someone should take a look at it. Okay. Make it easy for yourselves and your community. And prevention goes a long way because once someone takes over that property, it could give you headaches that you just do not want to think about. Next slide. Catalytic converter theft is a problem for us here in Chicago. And I want to say a lot of the southern suburbs have the issue. I'm not sure about your community, but they have locks now for your catalytic converters. Okay. You have your smart cameras just so you can have video of the individuals trying to go under your car. All right. This The metal under your vehicle is very expensive. Okay. They unfortunately take this piece of metal, they take it to the scrap yard. They can get 150, 200 bucks for it, if not more. Okay. Because sometimes they steal multiple catalytic converters and take them and they end up with thousands of dollars. Okay. Um, they are cracking down on the scrap yards, making sure they're not taking stolen property, but unfortunately it's a black market. Okay, you just don't know, and some folks will commit crimes whenever they can. Okay, including owners of these businesses. So just please, if you can get it locked, have a camera system. Again, well lit areas. You can actually have your VIN number etched on your catalytic converter, so that way if someone steals it and takes it to the scrap yard, if the scrap yard isn't on the black market, they'll actually report it or not accept it. Okay. And one of the things um, the thieves look for is any kind of etching on the catalytic converter because they don't want to have a problem when it's time to get money. So they'll skip yours and go, unfortunately, to the card in front of you or behind you. Okay, so deterring individuals from making you a victim is ideal in this world that we live in now. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Package theft. Okay, so the good news is FedEx, Amazon, they USPS, they are aware of the package theft. Okay, the package pirates. What I ask is one, know when your package is coming, be there to take that package yourself. If you, for whatever reason, aren't home, leave a note, send it to the neighbor's home. Do not say put it on my back porch or put it on the side of my house or put it underneath the chair with the green cushion. Please, folks are watching and waiting. And not to disturb you, we've had incidents here where the actual FedEx driver dropped off the package, went away, changed his coat and his hat, picked the package right back up, ladies. I'm not exaggerating. That is a true story. So sometimes the drivers are actually stealing the packages. The other options I know here in Chicago, we have grocery stores, we have malls that actually have the Amazon lock boxes, the little lockers. Send it to the lockers, put in your code, retrieve your package. All the money you spent, the thing that you've been waiting for, you get to see it, and it's not in someone else's hands that can go sell it or use it and give it to their girlfriends or what have you. Okay. please take the time to be available to receive your packages or know where they're going and what time they're going. Okay. It will save you a lot of money and a lot of aggravation calling these delivery companies. Okay. Um, and that's it for that one. We have a thing here. We say lock it or lose it. Okay. Lock up your vehicles. You know that thing I just mentioned only for a minute? Oh, I was just going to the gas station just for 1 minute. That's all it takes for you to be a victim. Okay. Lock it up, go in the store, go in the gas station, come back out. It takes you literally 1 second to unlock it. Okay. So please keep your doors locked. Don't let that 1 minute thing get you. And there are times where I literally have to say to myself, I say, oh, it's just going to be a minute. And I'm like, hey, you preach this every day. Be for real. So sometimes we have to talk ourselves into what we should be doing. Okay. And don't think there's anything wrong with that. Next slide. Protect your children. This flyer here was actually created with missing and exploited children. Just a few tips. Number one, know the route your kids take to and from school if they have to walk. I know you have a lot of bus services there, so maybe this doesn't pertain to you directly, but if you have family and friends in Chicago, please let them tell them, know the route your child is taking. Make sure your child knows who they should speak to and who they shouldn't speak to. Show them how to avoid alleys. Show them how to avoid the side of the street with the abandoned properties, the open windows, the open doors. Um, Make sure they're walking with more than just themselves, maybe the neighbor's kids, maybe some cousins, but they should never walk alone. Okay. Statistically, these abductions take place between 2 and 7 o'clock p.m. All right. And that's when our kids are exiting school and going home or hanging out with friends. Just please talk to them, uh, and as weird as it may sound, have a pretend fight, a pretend kick, a pretend scream. Just make sure they know how to get away in the event someone approaches them in a manner that's not comfortable. Okay. You'll be surprised of how many kids just don't know how to scream. They don't know how to say no. They don't know how to say stop. They don't know how to run. All right. Take 5 minutes, find a few items maybe by Googling a few cartoons that they have out there and give them the opportunity to just see that everything isn't always pretty and they unfortunately just need to be careful to and from on their routes to school. Okay. Um, of course, you know, if a child is abducted, you want to get the missing persons report. You want to do that with your local law enforcement, and also you want to do it federally in the event that it's days or no more than 24 hours. You just don't want to take the chance that something else ill could be happening. Okay. Um, so I am guilty. um, I don't know. They have many options out there. I don't want to give one item 100% go, but I would take a tile, put it in my niece's book bag just to know where she was. And she had no idea it was there. That's unfortunately the police and me, I guess. I'm sorry. But I would put the tile in her book bag. The tile would go to my cell phone and would ping wherever she was located, wherever her book bag was located. I was always aware of it. Okay. Same thing. I have a 16-year-old niece who just received a car for her birthday. Um, I'm just scary about that. So, hey, I'm putting one in her car. I told my brother how he should watch the vehicle, how he should know where she's going and where she's going to get gas and what friends she's with, addresses of the friends, um, where friends work. You just want to know all these details because unfortunately, whether they're, 18 or 10, they could put themselves in harm's way. And we just want to make sure that we know as much about them and their location as possible. Okay. We can go to the next slide. Here in Chicago, we have a crisis intervention team. Okay. I am actually a CIT team member. We're trained for 40 hours. Obviously, we're not doctors or nurses, but we have enough information just to know if someone is on medication, if someone is in crisis, what we can do to potentially stop them from harming themselves or harming others, what resources are available for them as far as hospitals or mental health facilities. It's very important just to know that information for us. We have unfortunately found ourselves in incidents that were deadly, okay, because we should have known more. All right. I say all that to say, back to the Smart 911 profile, you can actually say, hey, I have someone in crisis in my home, whether it's a son, a daughter, a niece, a nephew, a mom, or dad. They're triggered by male officers. They're triggered by bright lights. They're triggered by loud noises. You can share that information in your profile. So if the police, for whatever reasons, have to come to your home, they are aware of this before they arrive. Okay. That way you give the police the opportunity to know what they're dealing with before they walk in your home. And you get to understand that, hey, this person's in crisis. Let me approach this differently. Okay. The CIT officers are very informed. They are in the suburbs, maybe with a different name, and you can call your local law enforcement to get the name. But uh, mental health training for law enforcement, for obvious reasons, is a big deal these days. Okay. You can access the CIT officer or the mental health officer again by calling your local law enforcement, or when you call 911 and speak to your dispatcher, say, hey, do you have anyone trained for mental health or anyone in crisis? If you do, can you please send that individual because I don't want this situation to go in the wrong direction. Okay. Um, any individual who's considering suicide, homicidal thoughts, dial 988. Okay, that's a nationwide number to get individuals help. And again, the Smart 911 profile. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but whether it's individual in crisis, whether it's domestic situations, whether it's individuals with medication, um, it has so many different tools that you can use that's positive for everyone. Okay. So please keep that in mind. And we can go to the next slide. Again, this is a Smart 911 fact sheet. And Christina, if you need any of these copies, I can send you PDF copies. You can share them with your sisters. That way everyone has this information. They can share with their neighbors, friends, send emails out to 1,000 people. The more people who know this information, the better. Okay. And I don't mind, again, sending you the PDFs. Just let me know. I'll get them to you right away. Okay. The next slide. Okay, folks, I am ending my evening. I just want to end with how you can help anonymously. Okay. You get up to $5,000 for tips leading to gun trafficking, any charges or convictions, up to $15,000 for any tips leading to a homicide. The number to call is 833-408-0069. Okay. Folks say, well, how can you be anonymous when you call? How can I get my reward? You will get your reward. You will remain anonymous. They have a system to make sure it takes place as such. Okay. Um, it is unfortunate that we have to be rewarded to give information about crimes such as this, but it's just the day that we are living in. Okay. If you have any smart cameras, I ask on your, like the doorbell cameras, please, you have the opportunity with Ring to share video footage that's suspicious or unfamiliar. Do so. Okay. Something that you may think is suspicious, or, oh, you know what? Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's just someone, pulling up looking for something in their trunk. If it's suspicious, share with law enforcement, share with your Ring Neighbors app if you have a Ring doorbell. Um, you will be surprised at what vehicles we find and what information we get just based on individuals' Ring doorbell cameras or any smart doorbell cameras. Okay. So again, you can remain anonymous, share the information if you have it. We have family and friends who have information who, for obvious reasons, they have loved ones. They don't want to tell on them. But unfortunately, not telling has gotten us where we are now. and our communities are hurting because of it. Okay, so if anyone has any information, friends or family says, "Hey, I got some information. I'm afraid. I don't know what to do." Give them this information. Give them this phone number, and let them remain anonymous and share the information the best way they know how. Okay. And I think that was our last slide, Christina. I'm Corinne Beeman. This is my email address. I know a lot of you again are not from Chicago, or you aren't currently living in Chicago, but it does not mean you can't call me or email me for any information at all. Okay. If I can help, it would be my absolute pleasure. Safety and crime happens everywhere, and I'm a phone call or email away.
Thank you, Officer Beeman. We do have
No
a few
problem.
questions in the chat that I will read.
Okay.
The first question is from Janae. It is there a waiting period on when to report a missing person?
Absolutely not. Years ago, people would say, "Oh, wait 24 hours." If someone is missing 15 minutes and you know it's not normal, you make that report in 14 minutes. Okay. Do it right away. If, of course, you want to make a few phone calls, you want to see, like, hey, has anyone seen this individual? But don't waste any time. Okay, a report is simply a report. If they come home and you locate them later, you just simply call law enforcement, say, hey, they're home. Hey, I found them, and it's all done. Okay, but every minute you wait and they are in harm's way, um, gives things time to go wrong. Okay.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, should we invest in dash cams?
That's a great question. I say why not? Um, there are cameras everywhere, okay? Um, what stops you from securing yourself and watching whether you're being pulled over by the police, whether you're being carjacked, whether someone's trying to rob you? Dash cams can be good, okay? We live in an age of information technology, okay? Everything from we have license plate readers, and now our license plate readers are on the expressway. And just for the record, in the event you folks aren't informed, just like we have a social security number, we have a social security number just for our vehicles. So your license plate, every single time it goes up and down the expressway, we have detectives that can literally go online, input your license plate, and we can see how many times in 30 days you've been down this stretch of the highway. Okay. Unfortunately, we need that type of technology now because of all the crime that's taking place on the expressways. So whether it's dash cams or license plate readers or ring doorbells, I'm okay with technology. Okay. Um, Everyone is going to find something to abuse. The criminals will. I say you use it to your advantage and just be careful in the process. Make sure you get some technology that you do some research on. Don't just buy anything. Okay. Um, get something that you know have a friend or family member that has, and you can see it, you can pick it up, you can lift it up, you can read the directions, and of course look at some reviews online. But just be careful with what you buy, but Dash, I think, is wonderful if you just do the right thing with it.
Okay. Next question is, where can you buy catalytic converter locks?
Online, I would say would be your best option. Again, I can't say what store or what place because it'll look like I have stock and I would get rich and I could retire sooner. So unfortunately, I can't give a specific place, but again, do a bit of Googling. You can find them, you can get them delivered, or you can go out outside of your home and buy them yourself. So you have options, okay? And I'm positive you have some nearby.
Can you share any strategies we can use to ensure a safe and respectful interaction with officers considering today's social climates?
Absolutely. This is this is for anyone and everyone. We all want to be respected, okay? Um, Unfortunately, some folks don't understand that. My best advice for my family members and my friends, as well as you ladies, um, Simply just do what you're told. If they're being disrespectful, if they're being ignorant, if they're being foul-mouthed, you can report that. You can get their information. You can get their name. You can report everything after you're gone. Okay. And I like to remind people of that. Uh, there are a lot of bad apples in any profession. Okay. But we have to be smarter about how we win. All right. We don't win by going back and forth and um, making the situation worse. All right. I say, listen, comply. As long as they're obviously not telling you to do anything wrong, um, make sure you have their information. And you don't have to say, oh, I have your information, I'm writing it down. Just have the information. And then when the moment is right and the moment is safe, you go right to the authorities, you go right to your newspapers, you go everywhere you need to go and you report it. But you're able to report it and you're alive in the process. Okay. Again, there are bad apples. My heart will race if I'm pulled over by the police. Okay. But again, it's just comply and get out. Okay. I hope that wasn't too stern or too weird, but it's just easy to just make your life better by solving the problem later. You don't have to solve it right then and there.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
How secure is Smart 911 and is information shared? If so, with whom?
Okay, so it's extremely safe. It's not been hacked once in over 10 years. Again, there's no financial information requested. There's no social security information requested. Um, the only individuals who have access to your Smart 911 profile are the operators who answer when you dial 911. I want to say between 30 to 60 seconds after you hang up from the call, it it's eliminated off the screen, and the only person who has access to it after it's taken from the screen is a supervisor. Okay, and that's only for if they need to follow up for some reason, if it was some violent crime or such, okay? But the bottom line is the only individuals who have access to it are the operators who take the call when you call from that particular cell phone or that particular landline, all right? And the minute you hang up with them, your profile leaves the screen, never to be seen again unless a supervisor pulls it up for some emergency reason, which he has to do paperwork to do it, which can be followed. Okay. So no one can sneak and get your information. Okay. I hope that answered the question.
Another question related to the Smart 911 is, can multiple vehicles be entered into the profile?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Multiple vehicles, multiple pets. We have a guy who literally, he's an actual dispatcher. He has the plans to his home in Smart 911. So if it's a fire, the fire department knows exactly where every room is located. He has who belongs in each room, whether it's mom, mom-in-law, kids, again, how many pets. Um, he has a pet that doesn't like men with deep voices. He actually has that in his profile. So again, as much as you want to put in that profile or as little, the information is secure and it is helpful. It is very helpful.
Okay, we'll do the last two questions. Does the Chicago Police Department have a specific department hiring for computer technicians?
That's a good question. Any hiring through the police department is through human resources. It is available online at the cityofchicago.org website. There are plenty of tech positions throughout the city, whether it's for the police department or any other department. It's just a matter of you doing a little research with human resources. And again, cityofchicago.org, you can get all those details there.
We'll do one last question
Mhm.
before we, um, thank you. When was CIT established and what is the success rate?
So, I was actually one of the first trained CIT officers, and I want to say it was probably about 20 years ago. Um, I do not have numbers for success rate, but I will tell you this. Um, the individuals, let me back up and say now the police academy is actually training CIT to new officers. That's a good plus. Okay. There was a time where the police officers had an option to be CIT trained. All right. And I volunteered to be trained. Um, we're trained for individuals in crisis. We're trained for veterans who may be going through crises. We're trained for individuals with different drug habits, alcoholism. Um, the success rate is incredible because it gives you insight in different individuals and their mindset when they're going through this crisis. Okay. Um, it explains how we should respond to them without anger, with patience, how we can do everything without rushing, how now we have resources in our back pocket or in our vest that we can share. We now have permission. As long as we get it from our sergeants and we let the dispatchers know our location, we can take these individuals to specialty hospitals. Sometimes these hospitals are 30 or 40 minutes away. All right. But because of the time that we're living in, they realize that getting that person the help they need is more important than actually locking them up and taking their freedom away. Okay, or just putting them in a hospital without knowing the details of what's going on. So, again, I don't have a percentage rate of the success rate of the crisis intervention teams, but I can tell you personally, um, since the very first day I was trained, I go into homes differently. I'm a Black woman from the South Side of Chicago. I'm 5'4", 5'5". My entire career has been spent on talking to people first. And unfortunately, if you're too tall or you're too big or you come from places that aren't the South Side of Chicago, you don't think the same. But I've taken some classes with some of these individuals that after the class, they're like, wow, they just were unaware. And it's doing better now. Again, there was a time where you volunteered to be CIT trained, but now they're making it so every officer in the Chicago Police Department and other law enforcement departments are trained, and it's actually changing the mindset and how we respond to crisis events.
Okay, great. Well, I know there are a few other questions in the chat. Dr. Officer Beeman's email is on the screen, so please jot that down. You can email her. She's been gracious to answer any other questions that you have, so please email with any questions. Officer Beeman, thank you so much again for
No
joining us
problem.
this
Thank you for
evening.
having me, ladies. Appreciate you.
We appreciate all the great information you've shared with us. And we will go on to our second presentation for the evening.
Bye.
Bye. Our second presentation for the evening, we're thrilled to welcome Kelly Lewis. She is the Vice President of the Zurich North America and a seasoned leader in operational risk management. She has 20 years of experience spanning IT and cybersecurity across both public and private sectors. She has a proven track record in shaping strategies that enhance risk resilience and operational efficiency. She leads critical end-to-end operational risk activities, developing frameworks, metrics, and dashboards that empower organizations to align risk management with performance goals. Kelly is a graduate of DePaul University with a bachelor's in computer science and network technology and a master's in network security. She also holds CISA, CISM, and ITIL certifications. Beyond her professional achievements, she's deeply passionate about mentorship and community service, actively contributing through her involvement with the Glen Ellen Area Alumni Chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Please join me in welcoming Kelly Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Hello, all. So today we are going to be talking about cybersecurity and how you can really protect yourself and yourself being your digital self. So, if you can move to the next slide, Christina. What we're going to do today, I really want to start off with kind of going over what actually is your digital footprint, how you can be secure as you're doing your online dealings, as well as some tips and tricks to be safe when you are online. So, your digital footprint is really the trail that you leave behind when you're online. It's all of your social media activity, online purchases. I'm listening to Officer Corinne tonight. She told us a lot about Googling different things. So, any search history and more really is all a picture of who you are online. So, when we're thinking about cybersecurity, it's really how you're protecting what you're doing online. So, what are you doing to ensure that criminals, threat actors are not able to access your information and to really, compromise you either by stealing your identity, financially, or for your safety. So, the way that you want to manage your digital footprint is really a reflection of you. And so, when we're online, we want to think about how we're being proactive when we are either sharing our information or being on social media, other platforms, leveraging different apps that we use to handle day-to-day business, etc. We want to think about how to be strong and use secure passwords and even leveraging multi-factor authentication. So if you go to the next slide, Christina, I'm going to start with and end with kind of like these top things that we can be thinking about when we are online. So first things first, be honest about your age. Officer Corinne mentioned protecting our children. This actually goes hand in hand online for them as well. So a lot of apps like TikTok, we know they have age limitations. Those are really put in place to protect young people. They don't always have the maturity to really understand what is personal data. So those protections are in place really to protect them. You want to think about turning off your location tracking, or if you're not going to have it off, because I know a lot of times we do use it for the security of our loved ones, you want to think about who you're actually sharing it with. Or if you're tagging yourself when you're out, you might want to think twice. Maybe tag yourself once you get home or when you've left that location so people aren't able to reach out to you personally. Don't get nudged. Nudge really means that you'll be on a website and you'll see a button where there's something that is pre-selected. It's bright and colorful. It might be for you to opt into sending them information about yourself, or them saying that this is just different options to make you give them more information that is really unnecessary. You always want to protect yourself online as best as possible. So less information, the less amount of cookies and tracking that they have is always better. Again, we mentioned earlier, and we'll go really, I'm going to beat this into you all about using strong passwords and making sure that they are unique. I know every site, every app tells you you want to use a different password. So to make it easier now, the suggestion is really that we consider passphrases. So that might be a particular phrase that only you know. For instance, if you were thinking about Martin Luther King, I have a dream. If I have a dream is your passphrase, then you would use a variation of upper and lower letters, etc., to create that password. Secure Wi-Fi is always important. Again, you want to enable MFA. It always adds an extra layer of security to your accounts. Beware of phishing. We'll go into a little bit later all of the different phishing versus vishing and now phishing, different attempts that are used in social engineering. But you always really want to be wary of any emails or calls that are requesting personal information. So just as a standard rule of practice, your bank, your employer, certain places are never going to call and request your personal information. If you think that this is actually a legitimate request, you can always reach back out to that entity directly to confirm anything suspicious. And then, just as a common practice, monitor your accounts regularly for any unusual activity. So let's jump in. Next slide, please. When we're thinking about online, a lot of us shop. So Officer Corinne just said we can go online to look for the catalytic converter locks. We're online probably shopping at Amazon or grocery shopping. The what you can buy online is broad, nationally and internationally. So when you are shopping online, you want to verify before you buy. There are a ton of fraudulent ads, websites, and apps, and they can be very difficult to spot. It'll look like the actual website that you intended to go to, but there might be a little difference there. So what you want to do is hover over usually that URL, and it will give you the full length that you can verify that that is actually an accurate web address. When you are visiting a new website or even downloading a new app, you always want to read the reviews. So in the Google App Store or the Apple App Store, they usually have reviews under the apps. You can read those to see if this is actually a verifiable source to actually make a purchase from. You want to go directly to the source of any advertised deal that you will see. Sometimes you can be on Facebook or a different social media site, and you might see an advertisement for Macy's or another store. Instead of clicking that link there, if you're interested in shopping there, it's always best practice to actually go and insert that web address directly into your web browser instead of clicking on links. The same thing with offer codes. If you see them, you want to actually type in the offer code and not click on the link, because then that could ultimately take you to an unsecure web page. Again, attackers really like to create these lookalike sites to imitate familiar brands. You put your information in, they're able to access your data or intercept any data that's transferred over. And that could be your credit card information, or they may sell you counterfeit or non existent goods. These websites can be infected with malware, or again steal your credentials. So we just want to make sure that we're really being safe when we're shopping online. If the option is available to use a third-party payment manager like a PayPal service, the recommendation is definitely that you use those, because then they remove you giving the merchant your credit card directly, and thereby minimizing the potential for your data to be intercepted during transmission. It's also always safer to use a credit card over a debit card, because there are consumer protections that are offered with credit cards when you purchase something online. And lastly, and we'll go into this more a little bit later, you just really want to be careful about doing things on unsecured or public Wi-Fis. You would want to use a trusted VPN or even your own phone's hotspot instead, because again, public unprotected Wi-Fis will not necessarily protect the data that's being transferred. Next slide, please. So again, I know we were talking about apps a little bit and online shopping. It's just a big part of our daily lives. I know most websites now, Chase or Target, even Costco, they all ask you to download their app. So a lot of our shopping and needs are done via apps, but browsing via the web is still a significant daily part of our lives, whether we're checking emails or making purchases where you want a bigger screen to actually look and compare. We are still using web pages. So during those times, you also want to be cautious of pop-ups. Again, you might see pop-ups asking if you want to use this promo code, or there might just be some that claim that your device is infected. Those are all typically ways that threat actors are leveraging in order to access your information. It's easier during using web pages sometimes when they have extensions. Extensions and plugins are things like Adobe Acrobat, or Grammarly, Google Translate. So we use these things, as Officer Corinne mentioned earlier, because ease and technology definitely helps our lives, but we also want to make sure that we are minimizing our risk of being vulnerable. So again, you're only wanting to install browser extensions similar to the apps from the app stores coming from trusted sources. And then similar to if you have apps on your phone, when they are no longer needed, it's best to delete them. And then last but not least, just making sure that you're keeping your browser updated with the latest versions, whether that be on your operating system or on your actual browser, whether that's Chrome or whatever you decide to use as your browser. Next slide, please. So I mentioned earlier about being cautious with public Wi-Fi. And why is that important? Again, public Wi-Fis are not trusted. They do not offer the same protection that a private Wi-Fi would. So anyone on a public network is able to see whatever information passes through. So if you're sending emails with personal information in it, numbers, all of that can be exposed, your credentials, financial data, if you are using a open public Wi-Fi. It's best to use a trusted network Wi-Fi or wait till you get home. You also want to be mindful about confusing a trusted location with a trusted network. What's a trusted location? Starbucks. A lot of people go to Starbucks to work, restaurants, different places like that. That's public Wi-Fi. So while it feels like you're safe because you're in a place that you're familiar, the Wi-Fi there is still open, where now anyone and everyone within Starbucks, outside of Starbucks has the ability to access your information. So you, again, really never want to use open Wi-Fi. And we all usually keep our Wi-Fi on our phone on at all times. It's actually safer for you to turn it off when it's not in use, because again, as you are walking, your Wi-Fi is pinging off of any available connections, and you can auto connect to an unprotected network, and without realizing it, give criminals, threat actors access to your information through your Wi-Fi connection. So again, you want to keep your personal information as protected as possible, and that would include locking down your Wi-Fi at home or on your phone. Let's go to the next slide, please. So you hear a lot about MFA. What is that? Multi-factor authentication. Why do you need it in addition to a password? So passwords and PINs are great, but they are easy to decipher sometimes. People don't follow strong password rules. So it's your cat's name or your password one or these other passwords that are used across multiple sites. So if someone is able to get your password and they can log into your email, into your Chase account, into your Panera account, into your Starbucks account. So the purpose of multi-factor authentication is really to say, yes, I have this password, but let's really confirm that you are who you say you are. So it's another added layer of protection that says this is something you know, something you have, or something you are. So something you know would be your password, your PIN. Something you have, sometimes you'll have on your device, there's an app that you press and authenticate that it is you or something you are, whether that's your fingerprint, an eye scan, any other facial biometric scan. All of that proves with two different factors that you have authenticated who you are. It's easier with MFA to add. It just takes a few seconds, and it really does decrease the damage that can be done, again, if you have a stolen password. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked about how you can protect yourself when you are going online and what you should be doing to get there, let's talk about social engineering. So, social engineering is where the cyber criminals or threat actors, scammers, try to trick people into divulging their information so they can either access a system, a network, basically do something bad, manipulate data, give out fake information, anything that they can do that would be harmful. They use social engineers use a variety of methods into manipulating people into disclosing their confidential information. And sometimes it's by clicking on a link or it's sending money, it's opening an attachment where it might download malware and infect the computer. But we really want to know what I really want you to know is that the best way to be defensive against social engineering is really to use your common sense, your human intuition. Social engineers try to use emotions to really gain people's trust. So it'll be something urgent. And now with AI, they're able to make it seem like it might be someone that you actually know, and this is a sense of urgency. So instead of giving you the time to actually stop and think critically about the situation at hand, they're really relying on fear, urgency, or curiosity to allow you to lower your security and lower your in order to find out and they to be successful. So it doesn't always have to be where it is a negative emotion either. I know sometimes people think, oh, well, if they say your mother is sick in the hospital, send money, I'll know that that is false. But it might also be something like entertainment, or a charity will reach out. They'll say, please give to ASPCA, or to now what's going on in LA. Different people might call about helping after a national disaster. So it's really, they'll take advantage of people's goodwill. So you want to think that it might be something negative like fear, or there's a warrant out for your arrest, or there's an unauthorized charge. Click here to see what it is. Those are the kind of things that social engineers use, but we just really want to be mindful and just think before you act. Really take a breath, and critical thinking will usually be the most beneficial to let you know that this is not a legitimate request. Next slide, please. So I will go into the top two kind of tactics more in detail, but the main sources of social that they use, the scammers use for social engineering, is typically through emails. That is the most common communication channel, and that is called phishing. So I'm sure we've all heard of phishing. A lot of times you'll work in organizations where they'll do these phishing exercises as a part of security awareness and training. So we are aware of phishing. I'll go into that a little bit more in detail. But also sometimes the method of use is vishing, which is actually a phone call. This method was used, if people were familiar, about a year or so ago. MGM in Las Vegas went down and it was a whole major issue. That was actually because of vishing. A person was able to act as though they were a top leader's secretary. They called into the help desk, was able to answer the questions, the security questions, to change a password, and was able to gain access into that system and cause MGM major financial and reputational damage. So that is also another method that scammers use. And then smishing is basically the same, reaching out, but through text messages. So if we go to the next slide, phishing again is really related to getting information through the phone, through email. Through email. And in that way, they're able to breach your system, get into softwares, unaccessed, control the device, take over whole networks. It's used to exploit for identity theft, financial fraud, responsible for data breaches, malware infections, which also can affect not only you personally, but a company if devices are compromised, similar to the example that I just gave with MGM. So when you're thinking of phishing, again, be careful when you're reading your emails. Hover over the email address to ensure that it is from a trusted source. You can also hover over attachments. You can run emails through a phishing software to ensure that spam and those kind of emails are kind of moved for you before you see. Their companies also sometimes offer where you can report different emails through a phishing tool. So those are all the different things that are available for you to leverage when you are unsure if an email is actually legitimate. If all of those things fail, again, just remember to think before you act. If you're using strong passwords, that also can be a significant reduction to a successful cyber attack. That MFA, if they are able to get into your account because they have your password, they'll be stopped when they're unable to either have that biometric through MFA or a PIN or some other form to authenticate that they are you. Again, beware of personal emails that are emails asking for personal information or for money. Lastly, you can always call to confirm. If Chase or Bank of America sends you an email and they're saying it's these are the next rewards for this month, click here. If you are unsure, you can always call to confirm, or again, go directly to that Chase site or that Chase app to use that promotion or to inquire more about what you saw if you don't know that the sender was actually legitimate. Next slide, please. So Quishing is new, and this is basically QR code phishing, another cyber attack where QR codes are leveraged to trick victims into visiting malicious websites or downloading malware. It's becoming the second most popular because after the pandemic, these touchless tools became very popular, but it's really hard to tell when you're looking at a QR code where it will take you. Attackers know this, and so they create these malicious codes that lead to dangerous websites. They can mimic trusted sites, so people don't really realize that they're being tricked. And then again, same thing happens. They're also using quishing in phishing, so they're sending QR codes via email. Those are almost always a phish. Again, QR codes are something that are now of the future. Just the Smart 911 that the officer went over earlier, there was a QR code there. So when you're looking at QR codes, you just want to make sure that, again, they're from trusted sources. If you have to scan a QR code, please verify the code as scanning. Also, when you scan the QR code, you can look and it'll show you the website before you actually click to go. So that is another way that you can confirm that this QR code is actually sending you where you're expected and not really from an unsolicited source. Speaking of unsolicited sources, if you randomly receive a QR code, an email, text message, or social media, 9 times out of 10, that is probably a bad QR code, and you want to be leery of it. Any codes that are publicly displayed, again, could be um, scammers might have the ability to actually get into those codes and tamper with them. So you just really want to be cautious when scanning QR codes that are in public places. Again, as mentioned earlier, it's very, very important to keep your device updated. On our phones, our laptops, iPads, they all have an internal operating system as well as additional security software that you can leverage to protect you against any latest cyber threats. We can go to the next slide. Just wanted to see if there was anything else I wanted to share there. So We talked a lot about all of these things that we do on our devices. We know now our devices, I had recently done a training to some brownies for Girl Scouts, and it was funny because a lot of these girls had never seen a CD, tapes, DVDs, a photo album, a calendar, but all of those things are now in our phones. And so we have our whole life there, fitness, health, there's an app for everything. And similar to how if we had our wallet, our credit cards, our phone book, contacts, and everything separate, we would protect those. So no different than we want to protect those things on our device. It might sound like the most minimal thing of security to do, but a lot of people do not lock their cell phones. Please lock your devices, whether they're lost or stolen on purpose. If all of your information is there, again, unprotected, we have our banking information, our emails, our personal information, our health information, everything, again, about us is our digital footprint that we have on our phones and therefore online we want to protect. So lock your device, whether that be with a screen lock, a passcode, finger swipe, footprint, facial recognition. You want to lock your device. And then choose your apps carefully. Before you download an app, ensure that it's coming from one of those secure app stores. Again, read your reviews. There are plenty in the App Store that there are apps that have made it to other places that are not in the App Store. If companies ask you to download apps that aren't there, typically those are not the safest apps. Secondly, apps will ask for a lot of your information when you're downloading them that they actually don't need. Only give the app access to things when they're in use. So you don't need to give Chase access to your location at all times. You don't need to give, Facebook access to your contacts. There, you need to be very choosy about who you actually give access to, even though this is something that is protected. All of the apps are collecting information. So that information again goes into your not only your digital footprint, but is sometimes used and sold to third parties where they have access to your information that they then share. As mentioned, review the app permissions carefully. If they don't need to collect the information, don't give it to them. That is kind of what the app's job is, and how they pay for the updates to the app is by, again, leveraging your information to sell to third parties and advertisers. So if you want to keep that from happening, you want to have the minimal amount of access granted that is necessary for you to achieve the desired outcome from that app. And again, lastly, when you don't need the app, delete it. Sometimes, there might be a reason to download an app for a specific time to vote on something, or for a class that you might have, or something that is very time focused. Once you don't need the app, you should remove all unused apps and ad tracking across all of your devices and apps on your devices. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of bringing it all together, just really quickly, again, about keeping your software updated on all of your devices, cautious about your permissions. I can't say it enough to use strong passwords. Weak or reuse passwords across multiple platforms, across multiple apps, will lead to unauthorized access to your online accounts. It can result in data breaches. And again, a reused password across 10 sites can be detrimental to you and your identity. Always enable multi-factor authentication. Again, cautious of phishing. We went over using public Wi-Fi and why you want to avoid that from transmitting sensitive data. We did not discuss about regularly backing up your data. This is also important if your data is not only compromised, but if it's lost or stolen. If it is corporate data, you want to use some type of encrypted solution for your personal data. I also recommend that you back up your personal data, not just trusted in the cloud, but to an external storage device that you have protection over and that you can keep safe and secure in a safe or a fire resistant area for all of your things. Don't put your trust in anyone like, oh, I backed that up to the cloud. I don't trust any of those things. So you want to have a backup to your backup to your backup just to ensure that you have the information that you need should it be compromised, lost, or stolen. Also, with work data, I know sometimes our employers allow us to leverage our work data on our personal devices or vice versa. Please understand that when you are commingling data, if you do lose your device, your company does have the right and ability to wipe your device to protect their data. So, again, make sure that if you are storing work related data on personal devices, you have your data backed up and that all of the property security measures are in place. Next slide, please. So, we've talked a lot about our online presence, how we can protect our digital footprint, and how everything that we say online kind of says who we are. That is so much more so on social media. So, we all love social media. We love to be connected on social media, but it is the biggest and major contributor to your digital footprint and how cyber criminals learn about you. So, earlier, when I gave the example of what happened at MGM a year or so ago, the criminal was able to answer all of the questions because they had reviewed the social media accounts of that leader. They knew the dog's name, they knew where he lived, where he vacationed, all from social media being open and their ability to learn about you. So every photo you share, every comment can be tracked, analyzed, so much more so now with AI. So we really want to be cautious and look at social media no different than we would from strangers. You would not walk up to a stranger on the street and tell them, all of your birthday information, your address, the names of your children and grandchildren. You wouldn't give them money. You would be very mindful. So we want to have that same approach when we are on social media. Create a profile with privacy settings so that only family and friends can see. Profiles should really never be public. You want to know the difference between making posts on your timeline where you control and versus posting a comment on like a public page that's shared and viewed by others. You also want to fact check posts where possible, especially now. We are in a time, so much more so recently, where we're going to need to fact check. Please, 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 especially now that some social media sites have actually removed the fact checking and the fact that you have to be honest. So when you are online, please make sure that you are using reputable fact checking sites. Snoops, factcheck.org, reporterslab.org are a few sites that you can confirm validity of information. Before you share, ensure again that you are sharing factual information. Be mindful of online behavior of others because people tend to have more they are a little stronger behind a keyboard. If you're not necessarily face to face with someone, the ability to bully is easier. The ability to hurt people and be harmful is easier because there's this false sense of security since you're behind the keyboard. We want to treat others online with the same respect as you would if you were in person or that you will want in return. Be very aware of internet trolls, people who purposely try to post inflammatory messages online or try to start arguments or fights in the comment section, people who try to, incite things that have already been minimized and are over, and they try to bring them back up. So you just really want to be aware of that kind of behavior and report it. If you feel bullied, if there are abusive posts, comments, or messages that are not even directed toward you, but that you feel are abusive, please report. We want to make a safe community, no different than what the officer said about, if you see something suspicious, report it. It's the same thing when you're online, because it is still a community and you're still trying to protect yourself. So watch for and report suspicious behavior. As mentioned, think before you post. This is you. This is your digital footprint. It can follow you for the rest of your life, whether you are a child, a teenager, a young person, middle-aged, or elderly. Think before you post. That post is there indefinitely. I know people think that, oh, it can be erased. It's always there. Their footprint is never erased. So you want to, again, think before you post. And then lastly, really limit the amount of personal information that you're disclosing online. Again, you would never invite a stranger into your home and give them all of your personal information. So you want to do the same when you are online. Next slide, please. So AI, human intelligence in machines, is what is the new and big thing that everyone now is at the top of all our minds. How our behaviors are used online, and the different things that we're doing online is being collected and manipulated, retained, and processed now by these different AI services. So again, you want to be mindful of what you share and how it can be used, because the AI information, one, can hold conversations, imitate a person's voice or likeness, create video content, all in seconds. So, with so much prevalence and reliance on this new artificial intelligence, we want to do our own research. Again, read reviews before signing up and using an AI service. There are a million starter ones, but you want to use only the most well known and trusted AI services. Remember that any information you share and enter into those AI systems as in ChatGPT, is retained, processed, stored, and regurgitated back later. So again, you want to make sure that you are very mindful of what information you're putting in there, because that information is used to answer others, which leads to the third point, that you want to review and validate the information that you receive from ChatGPT or any other AI service. While it's really designed to give you an answer, that answer is only based off of information that it has in its database. So it's the same thing with any other database. Garbage in can be garbage out. So while we expect that AI is smarter and more intelligent than that, we still want to be aware of the information that we enter and share, and to validate that information that AI, gives back to you. Just because it's artificial intelligence, it doesn't mean that it's human intelligence, and therefore as smart and able to manipulate and understand data. And so that will bring us to the end of, if you go to the next slide, our last slide. Again, like I said at the onset, I wanted to begin and end with just some tips and tricks for users to be protected online and against these cyber threats and criminals. So always be vigilant. You want to stay alert to phishing, quishing, and all of those different attack methods that threat actors use to gain unauthorized access into our systems and networks. Really prioritize strong passwords. If you can't remember a password, remember to create passphrases and don't reuse them. You want individual, strong, keyword, unique passwords. Enable MFA. It takes about 30 seconds to a minute to enable, but definitely is worth it, adding that extra layer of security to your accounts. Be mindful of that public Wi-Fi. Sometimes it's easier or maybe faster if your phone signal isn't as strong as you would like, but really avoid sensitive activities if you are going to use public Wi-Fi, or leverage the Wi-Fi on your phone as a hotspot. You want to keep your devices updated, regularly checking them, in addition to the devices from an operating system perspective, but also from your software. And then just educate yourself and your peers by doing, again, reviews, looking into different cyber communities, tips and tricks that you can follow online to just be safe and secure. So thank you. That will conclude the presentation. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Kelly. This was great information. I am guilty of using Starbucks Wi-Fi all the time, so good to know.
Don't do it anymore.
We do have some questions in the chat. The first question, or two questions, related to cookies. What are they, and what is the best option for rejecting or accepting them?
So cookies are, it's information about you. It's kind of like your shopping habits. It's not as personal as your name, but it does kind of look at what you're doing online from a marketing perspective. Sites want to learn about you, so that's how they get their advertising money. So they'll make it, you'll see, you go to a site and they'll say this site uses cookies, but we don't sell your information. Those sites are typically using it just to learn about better ways to correct their site on how to interact with you. So if it's taking a long time for it to load, or if it's not as I'm trying to think of another example, but there are multiple cookies. Some cookies are just for the site to function appropriately. Some add that extra, we want to make a personalized experience for you, so therefore accept this next box. And then it's everything. Just click to accept all cookies. We're tracking your behavior, we're tracking your payment purchases, we're tracking your mom's last name. You want to, usually they will give you options when you go to a site. And now, because this has become from a data management perspective and all of those things now, that they have to give you choices and give you the suggestion. So remember when I mentioned about how it'll automatically be pre-populated, you can unclick those and say, I only want the necessary cookies that are required for me to use this site correctly. You also don't have to use the cookies at all. Now, sometimes it will affect the functionality of the website, but not that I've seen to the point that it just makes it more difficult to use, but not impossible. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, thank you. The next question is, there seems to be an uptick in scam texts. Can you speak about that?
People don't answer their phone. So now, I mean, we're in now, so mention like the quishing and text. Now everything is QR code or send you a link through your text. People don't have landlines. They aren't answering their cell phones. Now cell phones are coming with spam for calls automatically installed. So texts are the next option of reaching people. You know, kind of, they've done research like millennials text more, the later generations. So they're using that because that is an easier way for them to reach a broader, larger audience. We're not always as cautious in our text because we're thinking who's sending us, you know, it's easier to get your phone number. You're thinking from a call versus who's texting me something. And now they're using speech like, hey, don't forget we were supposed to do this, or hey, click this for our reservation, or it's language that is very disarming, where people again think very quickly. We have smartwatches, so your texts are easier there. You click it easier than if you were actually looking at your device. So it's really just criminals are smart and they have found what ways work. And until people become hyper vigilant about not being taken advantage of in text, then they'll move to the next thing. So that's kind of how Question came. They look for areas of opportunity and the easiest way to get in. And so texting now has just become the latest opportunity and the lowest hanging fruit to reach people. Not everyone checks email. People don't. You have your spam filter, so it's really just an easier way to gain access to people where they aren't as in the mindset of thinking to be more secure.
Okay. All right, we do have a few questions in the chat regarding password manager and then having safe login information on your phone so that you can quickly log in. So they want to know your thoughts about that, and then how often should they change their passwords?
Password managers are definitely recommended, personal and business, because one, they create, and even if you're using it on a web browser. So Microsoft has a password manager. They create, I don't know if anyone has ever tried to look at it, but they actually create a very long, you'll never remember unique password. It's securely stored. Again, you're using your regular password and another method of MFA to authenticate that you are who you say you are, to get access to that password manager. So it is another layer of security where you're not actually typing in the actual password. The system is doing it for you, which means that is less data transmitting. That password is not transmitting, where it could be seen or stolen. Second, the recommendation is to change passwords typically every 90 days. I know that that's a lot, but that's the recommendation. At minimum, I would suggest every 6 months. If you are using a password manager, you could probably move more to the 6 month, because again, those are very secure, unique 12 minimum digit passwords that don't go across network transmissions in clear text. So those are a little more secure. You don't have to remember them. They're automatically stored in your phone, so you don't have the idea to reuse and re-leverage passwords over multiple sites. It kind of forces you to have unique passwords without you having the hassle of needing to remember all of these different unique passwords across multiple applications. Was that all of the question? I was trying to remember. Did I
I
answer each
think
point?
I touched on like about saving login information in your phones. How secure is that? Like, so you can sign into these sites quicker.
If you're using the password manager, yes. If they're asking if that you just have a notes page on your phone and you have all of your passwords there, that's a no.
Um, can you provide the name of the fact check apps again?
I will. It is. Wait, let me go because I want to make sure I'm spelling them correctly. They were in my notes. So it's Snopes, SNOPES.com, factcheck.org, F as in Frank, ACT, check, CHECK.org, or reporterslab.org. So REPORTERS as in Sam, LAB.org.
Okay, great. Thank you. I also typed them in the chat.
Okay,
So
thanks.
everyone can refer to the chat for those. Do you recommend Norton services?
I don't want to give a particular vendor either, similar. So I'll just say, do your research. There are many antivirus malware protectors on the market. A paid service is not always the best service. There are some reliable, reputable, free services, but you do get more functionality with paid services. Look into what your providers also have. So sometimes, Xfinity or DirecTV, and different T-Mobile, Verizon, different ISP, internet service providers, do offer free or discounted software for malware and antivirus or spam protection. So you can look into those, but I don't feel comfortable offering or giving a specific vendor or brand.
Okay. Last two questions. Does it help if we clear our search history and clear our catch?
Cache, yes. So I do recommend clearing your search history and your cache every time if you're using a public or shared PC or device. But just as a common practice, again, every 90 days when I'm going in to change my passwords, if I do have passwords I need to change, I'm also clearing out my cookies, clearing out my cache, sites I've recently visited, everything. I just go like just as a practice because, again, it's kind of similar to what I was saying about deleting apps that you haven't used. You don't realize that these apps and sites are still kind of collecting information and talking in the background. So the minimal information that you're leaving just out there, the better. You want to minimize your digital footprint the best way that you can and being proactive in that. So if you have not visited this site in 90 days, then that's not something that you would need to have your information to be stored there. So yeah, I recommend doing a full clean out browser, everything 90 days.
Okay. And the last question is, do you recommend that we use our phone PC's MFA or third party?
Good question. So I don't want to say so I guess this is so there are some phones. The phone ones are good, but I think it depends on the site that you're visiting and what you're doing. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I need to add MFA when I'm checking my email, but so I don't need it for everything on my phone. But for me, I do leverage it if I'm going into my banking apps or other things like that.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for all the great information and for joining us this evening. Let's see here.
I would say where you can use it, and where it makes sense. I mean, you don't want to. We don't. We don't want IT or security to be burdensome or cumbersome because then people don't use it for ease of use. But again, where your most valuable information is, that's where I would leverage it. So if you have videos and pictures that are very important to you that you don't want to lose, you might want to password protect those, or make sure that those are being backed up more than your text messages or something. So you just want to, again, always kind of use your common sense and logic and just be proactive.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kelly. If you do have any other questions, Officer Beeman, you can contact her. You could also send any questions that you have to the email address, and I can forward them to Officer Beeman or to Kelly. Our email address is ert@dstglenellen.org. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. Hopefully this information was very good. We've got some good response in the chat that this is very good information. We hope that the insights shared by our amazing speakers, Officer Corinne Beeman and Kelly Lewis, have equipped you with some good information and knowledge that you can use to safeguard yourself, also your family and your communities. At this time, staying safe requires vigilance, both as Officer Beeman talks about, offline, but also as Kelly talks about online. So we want to use this information to foster awareness and action. Hopefully, you can take what you've learned tonight and share them with others and just remain committed to just creating a safe environment and secure environment for everyone. On behalf of the Glen Ellen Area Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we want to thank you for your engagement and your participation this evening. A special thank you to our speakers for taking the time out and their experts sharing their expertise with everyone and everyone behind the scenes that made this possible. Let's continue to stay safe, informed, connected, and have a wonderful evening. And thank you for being a part of this important conversation. Good night, everyone.